Welcome to the show. After the kids go to bed, we talk about love, relationships, and sex. So join us for lively discussion and thought-provoking ideas at Love is on the Air. My name is David, and I'm joined by my lovely wife, Natalie, contributor and chief over at the Feminine Frame website. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well.
My name's David, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Natalie.
Hello.
She is the chief editor at thefeminineframe.com. So if you haven't read some of her fantastic work over there, go do that. But tonight we have a very special story, a very special treat.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and read the story, and then we can get the audience reaction at the same time, and I'll react, and then we can discuss it.
Okay. I had read a Reddit post.
You want to read it now?
And I brought it up to Dave to see what his thoughts were on it. So it says, I messed up and need advice. An old friend of mine of almost 2 decades was moving to my city and needed a place to crash last night before his accommodation was ready. My fiancé seemed a bit iffy about it, but I know he's a private person and thought it was just that. This morning he erupted. He didn't sleep, he didn't want to go to work, and leave me with him. He stormed out. Now this distrust of me around other men was an issue at the beginning of our relationship, but I genuinely thought we had moved past this. To me, it's no big issue having a trusted friend stay over, but to my fiancé, it is. How can I fix this?
What was the reaction of the other ladies in the forum and the other people? Do you remember what you told me?
Yeah, most of them said, you did nothing wrong here. He should have communicated. If he didn't want your friend coming over, he should have said that.
I think that really proves the point that I think women generally as a society are not given a lot of accountability. I'm not talking about individual, of course, not all ex are like that. But yeah, as a society, you see this time and time again. Women do make mistakes. They are human after all. But it seems like we generally don't accept mistakes.
Yeah.
And the same thing in this forum. Oh, you poor baby. You did nothing wrong. This is all his fault.
Yeah. So my reaction, and I posted this, was like, yes, this guy, part of being a masculine leader, you need to be assertive. You need to be able to say what you think and feel. So yes, it's on him. He should have said what he really felt. And also, like, his reaction is on him. That's on him. But for her part, she says she felt iffy about it. And she could tell he was uncomfortable. If you could tell that your guy was uncomfortable with another guy sleeping over, then that's a place that you can take accountability. And to her, I know that this was just like a really innocuous thing. But like the point is, she could tell that he was uncomfortable with somebody, with a man coming into her home. And so that's a place where she could say, hey, I knew you were uncomfortable. I put you in a position that I knew was making you uncomfortable. So like you can own that and apologize for that.
I think you've got the right idea here. See, this gal, whoever she is, she at least has some semblance that she may have done something wrong. And I think she's trying to assuage her guilt a little bit and say, maybe I did. So I have a little bit of hope for this woman because somewhere in the back of her mind, maybe I messed up somewhere.
Yeah,
Maybe I did something wrong.
And I don't think she's trying to assuage her guilt. I think she's genuinely loves and is concerned about her fiance.
Wow, that is super optimistic.
No,
but
it's super truthful. That's my truthful assessment.
Okay, all right. I want to give you maybe a more red pill assessment.
Mine is perfectly red.
I agree with the criticism. As a man, we need to speak up and set some boundaries. He should have said, look, you are my fiance, and I don't feel comfortable with another guy coming into my house and sleeping on our couch. Somewhere in this woman's mind, she has some semblance that she may have done something wrong. So I have hope for her. If she's like trying to figure out where she went wrong, then yes, there's a little bit of hope for her. She can come back from this.
She genuinely is concerned, I think.
And that's a good thing. But now let's actually address the elephant in the room, what she did wrong and what no one else online will tell her is what the guy is thinking about. First of all, first and more, living with another woman that you are not married to is a bad idea. It's just a bad idea all around. If you don't want to get married because you're going to lose half of your stuff, that's a valid concern. But in a lot of states now, there's common law marriage. So if you live with a woman long enough, they still get to take half your stuff. So this is not really a good idea, right? And the reason you don't is there's so much emotional commitment to living together, but without making the commitment to be each other's partner for the rest of your life. So there's really this idea of non-committal commitment there. And I really just don't like it. I don't like it from the precedents it sets. So that's our first mistake. And they have fiancés as well. So they're planning to get
There
married.
is commitment there. Like they're not fully joined yet, but they do have intentionality there. They're not trying to just play house.
With that said, everything that is a man's responsibility is enforced by law. So generally when we get married, all the things the women commit to are things that are not enforced by law. Staying pretty and cooking good food and like being nice to you. Like these are things men desire in marriage. And those things are not regulated by law, but men, their roles generally are to provide. So when there's a divorce, as a man, you got to pay alimony, you got to pay child support, you got to do all those things you committed to, but there's no legal repercussions for women that don't do their end of the bargain. So it's far riskier for a man to get married than it is for a woman. And so in this guy's mind, he's ready. He's preparing himself mentally to get married. He wants to be with this woman. I'm going to commit my life to providing for you financially, one woman for the rest of my life. I'm preparing to be faithful to you for the rest of my life and not want to have sex with other women for the rest of my life. He's getting ready. He's gearing up for this huge commitment. And then all of a sudden, she out of the nowhere blindsides him and says, hey, I want to invite this stranger, this strange man, you've never met him, into our house. And he's going to sleep 20 feet from us. Okay. He's going to sleep 20 feet from me or whatever. And you'll go to work. And the next day we'll just hang out in the morning and have a coffee together for breakfast. You know what I mean? This is blindsiding him. In his mind, he's thinking, whether he's conscious of this or not, he may not be able to articulate, but he is gearing up for this marriage. He's gearing up for this commitment. And what he perceives her is that, oh, she's still messaging other guys. Oh, she's got one foot in the door and one foot out. She's got a guy in the backup. She's got another guy just waiting for him to mess up. And the first time he messes up, he says something that hurts her feelings or whatever, forgets a birthday or something. This guy's going to be in the wings. He knows where she lives and they know how to message each other on Facebook. And so I think that there's some real impropriety there. Like even from someone gearing up to being married, you should be starting to cut off communication from other potential mates because you're gearing up for that marriage. You're saying, okay, it's time to cut off other ties to commit to one.
Yeah. I think it's good to bring in some perspective there that he's getting ready to commit to her and he sees this and he's, whoa, are you as committed as I am? Now, and from her side of things, in her mind, she doesn't have any romantic feelings for this guy, at least not now. It's completely innocuous from her perspective. I find that there's kind of two camps as far as friendships with the opposite sex. And some are like, if your man is trying to say you can't message with other guys, you can't hang out with your guy friends on your own, then he's a controlling, sexist, chauvinist pig, and he's abusing you. Get out of there.
That's like straight up the feminist Reddit.
That's a very pervasive view right now. Like a lot of people have that perspective. The other side of that is no, like you shouldn't have male friends at all while you're in a relationship. Generally, I tend to, with that point of view, I think it can be taken like anything. It can be taken too far. That can get too controlling. But generally, I think it's a good idea to I think it's a very reasonable boundary and expectation to say, hey, we're getting ready to be married. We're not inviting other people, single men into the home. We're not having little dates off to the side with him. You're not private messaging him on Facebook. And the post didn't indicate that she was doing any of that. So this isn't an accusation of the poster. This is just a general commentary on relationships. That is a very reasonable boundary for a man to have. And so I think that this is a little bit of an incompatibility in that post that they had, where they have very completely different expectations. So somebody's going to have to compromise there. And I don't think that's a deal breaker if they can come to a compromise about what is acceptable as far as communication with other people. I don't think it has to be a deal breaker.
Yeah, I don't know. From my point of view, this had happened to me. I would be very hesitant to move forward in the marriage. I was like, okay, we're engaged, but in my mind, she hasn't quite turned off the other option. If, for example, she had a Tinder and you're engaged to someone and they still had Tinder and they were still checking it every day, you're like, oh no, I still have the app. I'm not going to use it, but I still have it. I still look at it sometimes. Like you would be rightly confused, right? Wait a second, but you're using this app to hook up. That's what the app is there for. It's for the dating or the flings. I know that's not what this situation is.
Yeah, that's not.
But if
yeah.
that were the situation, you'd understand, okay, that makes sense why it would be
Yeah.
so inappropriate to keep this app when you're engaged to someone else. So this isn't a far jump. The other thought I had was, if she were to cheat, if she was planning on cheating, most people don't just one day up and they go and cheat, right? That's not really how it works. It starts as a little seed and gets planted, and they say, oh, I'm unsatisfied with XYZ part of my relationship. And that kind of grows into this idea, and this idea spreads. And then you start by messaging someone on Instagram or Facebook and, hey, how you doing? I haven't talked to you for a while. Where are you at? What are you up to? And that's how cheating starts.
And especially if you're not planning on cheating. If you're planning on cheating, you're just going to go on Tinder or go to a bar. If you're not planning on cheating, that kind of affair is even more dangerous because it starts out emotional. You're not planning on cheating.
At least you can convince yourself a nice little lie that this isn't cheating. I'm not cheating. I'm just messaging my friends. I'm just getting some validation. And like how the frog boils in the pot of water, it just slowly creeps up and you talk to them more and, hey, let's go out for coffee. That's how a cheating would start. And if that's already to the point with, hey, come over to my house, you can stay in our house for the night. I definitely think that you're already too comfortable with the things that would lead to cheating. And that would be actually a pretty red flag for me as a man. Now, luckily, I'm in a position where I can state those things and I know how to communicate well enough to say, hey, that's not going to be appropriate and that's not going to work for me. I don't want to have this strange guy coming over. If he's a good friend or whatever, we can give him $80 and he can stay in an Airbnb or whatever if he's a real charity case. But otherwise, no, I'm not going to let a strange man into my house to sleep on my couch. I don't know who he is. I just know he's a friend of my fiance's. And then I'm going to head to work the next day while he hangs out in the house all day with her.
Yeah, I don't think he's unreasonable at all for feeling uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's where I think she went wrong is when you're in a relationship, like a lot of that is really built on mutual respect. And so if you can tell that your partner is really uncomfortable with something, that should make you take a step back. Like that should be enough. Even if the words coming out of his mouth were, yes, this guy could stay here, she knew he was uncomfortable with it.
And a lot of guys are programmed to be permissive. We don't speak up for ourselves enough. We say, oh, I want to be seen as someone who's caring and understanding. I want to show her that I trust her and I want to put forward that trust. So I'm going to be permissive of something that really I don't like, I don't want, and it makes me really uncomfortable and it's insulting almost. to do that to me. But as guys, we want to feel like, oh, we're showing her that we can be compassionate, or we're showing her
Right. Or maybe there's this
that we
fear
can.
of losing her or
Yeah, I mean, at a engaged point of their relationship, I don't think that's probably the fear as much. But I think the fear of saying, oh, she won't think that I trust her, or oh, we don't want to be seen as pig-headed or
that controlling guy.
chauvinist or whatever,
Yeah.
controlling. And so we let women get away with things that we would never do. And that in and of itself is a feminine thing, is women do tend to want to get along a little better. That's more the nature of women. Where men, at least traditionally, we've had more clear, concrete boundaries of what we want. And women recognize that. That's why assertiveness is so attractive to women, because we know what we want. But I think modern man, we've been trained, hey, I'm going to be permissive of something that I otherwise wouldn't be permissive of.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, just so in general, like where are you? Say you're in the camp, no like close male friendships. Like where is the line between like reasonable, it's getting too much into that emotional closeness if you're messaging guys or going out for coffee with other guys versus what really would be a controlling situation.
They've done some research on this, and I'll link it in the description, I promise. There have been some research that when their spouses cheat, men tend to have more of a problem with the physical, like cheating with someone else. This makes sense, right? Even from an evolutionary standpoint, you don't know if the kid is yours, so cheating is a big deal that way. But for women, cheating is not just about the physicality. In fact, it's mostly about the emotional connectedness. Women would feel more betrayed, and this has been borne out of the research, when men have an emotional connection to somebody else, emotionally cheating, if you will. Yeah, I think, where do you draw the line? I don't have a hard, fast line that's going to work for everybody. Every relationship's different. We've been married for years and years.
And it probably
And so we
depends
have a
on,
different level, like, of
yeah.
where we're at versus somebody who's newlyweds. Women pride themselves on their communication, and she absolutely picked up on it before the fact that he was uncomfortable with this. So if she goes to him and apologizes, look, I'm so sorry. I knew you were uncomfortable with it, but I just justified my thinking that this was an old friend, but that was wrong. And I'm sorry about that. And I want to apologize. And look, I'm even more committed to this marriage than I was before. I'm not going to be messaging guys on Instagram anymore. I'm not going to message my old friends. I'm going to put that part of my life behind me and just commit to us, commit to our relationship. Now, if she went to him and said that in earnest, I think most guys would be willing to forgive that and say, okay, thank you for understanding like how I felt and why that would be so distressing to me. And so that's my advice to this young woman, is get your act together, because you could lose him. And so we have a society right now that's really adversarial towards men and masculinity. So men are really touchy about marriage. And if you really want to keep this guy, then stop with the games. Stop with the game. Get serious about him. And I think you'll have a good outcome.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's cool. So that's our discussion today. What do you guys think? Put in the comments down below. What did I mess this up? Am I a chauvinist? Surely I am. Let me know how
Surely,
wrong I am in the
yes.
comments below. And we will talk to you next time. Till then, take care.
Okay, bye.